Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about the Islamic gunpowder empires. This is a series of three empires that used gunpowder technology to conquer new areas, and so they're kind of all grouped together. This is one of the examples of land empires that we're going to talk about in this unit. So we're going to start with the Ottomans, and you can follow along on your Google Doc for the notes. I would encourage you to fill that in. By 1300, the Byzantine Empire had begun to shrink, which was in this area right here. And Turkey, what is today Turkey, was inhabited by nomadic Turks with a really long history of invasion. They saw themselves as Ghazis, or warriors for Islam, like people who raided in the name of Islam. And the Turkish Ghazis followed a strict Islamic code of behavior and wanted to take land away from the infidels or unbelievers. So the Byzantine Empire, for example, which is orange on the map, were Christian, and so they were attempting to overthrow that empire and expand their own territory. So Osman Bey is the first real significant Ottoman leader. He established a small Turkish state right here where it's sort of like a green teal color in the 1300s. And then you can see on the map, he gradually expanded outward. Why were they successful? The Ottomans used gunpowder and a highly trained military to conquer other people. So we know that gunpowder originated in China and the Mongols had used it, but in the 1300s, it was only slowly diffusing to Europe at this time. And so the Ottomans were able to master that technology, and they were one of the first to use cannons to break through city walls. The Ottomans also continued to expand into Byzantine territory, and their leader claimed the title of Sultan, which is like king. So one of the issues in all Muslim empires is the problem of succession. When Muhammad died, he did not leave any clear instructions on succession. Unlike other empires or dynasties where we usually think of the power going to the oldest son, that was not the case in Muslim empires, and so it could go to anyone. And so what usually happened is that when the ruler became old and sick, or after he died, other male family members would go to war against each other, even to try to defeat the other male relatives and become the next sultan. Later sultans even would kill all their male relatives except one when coming to power to try to prevent rivalries or try to prevent like being assassinated. The problem with this is that it led to some weak rulers, because what they would do is choose the one male relative that they were not going to kill, who was going to be the next sultan, and keep him locked up in the palace. The problem with that is that he should probably be out getting experience. Like, he should be leading military campaigns or working in the government or doing things so that when he comes to power, he'll be knowledgeable. And that's not what they were doing. Okay, Mehmed II, or Mehmed the Conqueror, is known for conquering Constantinople, which was the capital of the Byzantine Empire. This city was really, really important for trade and for defense. And I'm going to go back just a minute because we have on this slide, you can see here's Constantinople. And it is right at the entrance, or kind of controls the entrance between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. So it's a really important strategic point for trade and for military power. And Mehmed went to the Hagia Sophia, which was this huge church that the Byzantines had built, and changed it into a mosque. And he also renamed the city. So instead of Constantinople, he renamed it Istanbul, which is what it's called today. Probably the most well-known of the sultans is Suleiman the Magnificent. He reigned for 46 years, beginning in 1520. And I'm going to tell you several things about him, and you can just record a few facts. So he conquered a huge amount of territory. On this map, the brown area is area that he added to the Ottoman Empire. You can see that he went all the way to Eastern Europe. And he attempted to conquer Vienna, Austria, which is right here, but failed, and that was the end of Ottoman westward expansion. But it was still a huge amount of territory. Like, the Ottomans controlled most of the Eastern Mediterranean. Here's some other achievements of his. Again, you have access to this PowerPoint, so you definitely don't need to record all these. He simplified the taxation system. He streamlined the bureaucracy, and he was given the title of lawgiver. He standardized the laws within the empire. He also was someone who was really interested in education and the arts. So he studied poetry, history, geography, many different subjects, and he was interested in building large monuments to show off the power of the Ottomans and the power of Islam. And I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. He was an enthusiastic patron of the arts, which means he sponsored or paid for artwork to be created. One example of a type of artwork that was really popular at this time were Ottoman miniature paintings. These are small paintings that illustrated writings or books. And kind of the golden age of this was under the reign of Suleiman. So you can see the artists here have a lot of detail, very realistic looking figures. And here's the Suleymani Mosque in Istanbul. So it's just one of the examples of him sponsoring architecture to show the greatness of the empire. All right, let's talk about the government structure. So at the top was the Sultan. He's like the king. He's a political leader and also the leader of Islam. The Imperial Council included viziers. Viziers are like the head bureaucrat. So they're like the Sultan's right-hand man. They handle all the duties, the day-to-day duties of the government. And a lot of them are drawn from the Devshirme system, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so Janissaries were highly trained Ottoman soldiers who got their power because they controlled the gunpowder weapons of the empire. They were taken through the Devshirme system. The Devshirme system was something that the Ottomans developed to try to get the most loyal soldiers and bureaucrats possible. So what they would do is they would go to Christian or Jewish areas within the empire, and they would take children from their families when they were really young, like 3, 4, 5, and they would send them to school. They would be very highly educated. They would convert to Islam, and then they would spend the rest of their life working in either the government as a bureaucrat or in the military as a janissary. So why did they do this? They wanted people who had no other allegiance other than to the Ottoman Empire. So these are people that they never saw their families again. They didn't have any family connections or anything theoretically holding them back from fully serving the empire. And there's a video called Life of a Janissary that I would really like you to watch, and I'm going to post a separate link to that so you can watch that right after you finish with this video. The millet system granted toleration to other religions, especially what they referred to as people of the book. People of the book were people who believed in the same, some of the same religious figures as the Ottomans. So the Ottomans were Muslim, and we know that they trace their lineage through Abraham, who is an important figure in also Judaism and Christianity. So the fact that all of those religions believe in these important people of the Torah or the Old Testament for Christians, they felt like a commonality with them. And so they had much more freedom than we might think people would have under this government. And so each religious group or millet was headed by an administrator who reported to the Sultan and collected taxes. This prevented conflict between religions. It also prevented conflict between these religious groups and the Ottomans, but it did kind of cause issues later because people felt like they didn't have to be fully loyal to the Ottomans, that they had their own little self-governing communities. The Ottomans used a system called tax farming, or farming out or delegating tax collection to a third party. So This has nothing to do with farming like agriculture. It has to do with when you farm something out, you're like delegating it to something else or someone else. And so what they would do is it was almost like an auction where they would they would say to people, okay, whoever wants to pay the most money, you have the right to collect taxes from this region for 3 years. And you can charge the taxes however you want to, and you keep whatever money you get. So people would bid for this opportunity, and they would have to pay a large sum of money to the Ottoman government, but then they could go get taxes from people in their assigned region for 3 years and could kind of do whatever they wanted in terms of collecting taxes. This was an advantage to the Ottoman government because they get the tax money like right up front, right at the beginning. And the tax collectors also have an incentive to promote the economy in their region, because if you're going to tax people based on their income, you want to have people that have a high income. So you want to have like farmers and artisans and merchants doing really well so that they end up owing more taxes. The problem with this is that it led to abuse. So you can probably see how the tax collector then can just kind of do whatever they want. They're not really fully under the Ottoman government. And so they often took more money from people than they really needed to. Here are some factors that led to the decline of the Ottomans. So succession issues led to ineffective rulers, because they would eliminate their male relatives and then keep the one relative really isolated. At the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, the Ottomans were defeated by the European navy. And this really showed the world that the Ottomans had not modernized. So even though in the 1300s, they were way ahead with their use of cannons, by the 1500s, they hadn't really adopted a lot of new technology, and Western Europe was catching up. The Janissaries especially played a role in that because they were worried that their position would change if they adopted new technology, because they controlled the firearms and that was like key to their power. And so they were very resistant to any kind of change. And then also the Ottomans had a lot of control over land trade routes like the Silk Road. And we know during this time, by the 1500s, a lot of the trade is shifting to sea routes as the Europeans explore and establish new trade routes. So those are just some of the reasons that the Ottomans declined, and we'll come back and talk about this in more detail. So the other thing that you need to start working on is this project called Gunpowder Empire's Choices Activities. So there are 3 slides with 3 different activities. There's one that's called Body Biography. There's one that is a flag activity. And there's one that is an SAQ. Each day, we're going to go over one of the empires. The empires are Ottomans, Safavids, and Mughals. So we just went over Ottomans today. And then you're going to choose one of those activities that you want to complete. So today, you're going to look at those 3 slides and decide, okay, which one of these activities do I want to do for the Ottomans? Tomorrow, we'll go over Safavids, and you'll choose another one of the activities that you want to do for Safavids. So you can do them in any order that you want. Like you can choose whichever of the 3 you want to do for Ottomans, and eventually you'll do all of them, but for the different empires. So that's it. Don't forget to watch the Life of a Janissary video, and have a great day.